Hey, one more thing before you go. UFOs, ETs, planet Earth, Jesus, Buddha, and Krishna, as well as St. Peter as interplanetary masters, metaphysics, spirituality, and a deep love for our planet. What do all these things have in common? Wajid Hassan. He's a yogi mystic, humanitarian, an environmentalist, a ufologist, and my guest in this episode. Do you want to know what it's like to have an experience with a UFO or an extraterrestrial? Stay tuned. This is One More Thing Before You Go. I'm your host, Michael Hurst, and this is The Thing About the UFO, the Yogi Mystic, and Saving Planet Earth. In this episode, we're going to learn how to reignite the spiritual flame within us and send it outward to all to improve not only our personal lives, but those of every life form on this beautiful world. That we're not alone in this universe, and that mankind is on the crossroads of a tremendous change, many of them actually. My guest in this unique conversation is Wajid Hassan. He's a Muslim-born yogi mystic with over 40 years of experience in the field of metaphysical healing, spirituality, and New Age concepts. He's an avid hiker. He managed to climb to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in 2006. That's Africa's highest mountain. He is a humanitarian and an environmentalist who's always looking for ways to improve life for people along with deep love for our planet and who reside upon its back. He has over 20 years in the entertainment industry, as well as making us laugh, cry, think, and feel good. Something he outlines in detail in his #1 bestseller on Amazon, The Struggle for World Sanity, which will inspire and uplift those who read it. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure, as always.
You know, you have an amazing journey, Wajid. I think that it is a situation that 40 years within the metaphysics and spiritual world, I think that you have created an environment that allows you not only to have an open mind and open heart, that you kind of meld your mind, your body, your soul together, but you get to share it with the world. That's fantastic.
Well, I had the opportunity last year to finally publish the work, Michael, Struggle for World Sanity, and because of that, I kind of kept in the background for a while because with my job and my career and everything, and now it's got to the point where, I have this opportunity to share my experience, uh, and also to give your listeners a message of hope. That there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The conditions that we face right now are very, very difficult, but as we prophesized by not only my spiritual master but other prophets in the past, that there is going to be bright deep dawn, a new age that is coming tomorrow in the not too distant.
Yeah, and that's, I think that we want to get into that. I mean, I think it's going to be an experience today, and I really appreciate you on the show. I kind of like to start my conversations with a little bit about you. So if we don't mind, let's learn about you. Where'd you grow up?
Well, I was born in Pakistan, and um, in the slums of Lahore, and my parents, at that time, my dad was a high school teacher, and I had two older siblings, a younger sister, and it got to the point where, financially, could survive, and decided there were better opportunities to be had in England, and at that time, Pakistan was part of the Commonwealth, when they had opportunities for people to immigrate to England. And so, the age of 3, I traveled across, there was no air. didn't have the money for airplanes and airports, so traveled by bus and train all across Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, Yugoslavia, Greece, went to France, and then across the English Channel today. And where I was raised in the north of England near Manchester till the age of 10, and then we moved to London, went to high school in London, or primarily in the East End of London. I got a formal education, got into the technical field, became a field service engineer for a large company in southern England, and then eventually moved to the United States, primarily Los Angeles, where I lived for about 30 years. And then recently, been here in North Carolina, near Raleigh, for the last 2 years. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's an intriguing journey, actually. That's where the English accent comes from, eh?
Yeah, I guess I have a mixture of different accents, but now and then the English accent does come up, I guess, finally because I was raised in England.
Yeah, I've watched some of your reel that you have on IMDb and on your website, actually, and it's interesting to see what you've done in the entertainment field in regard to some of the characters that you've played and so forth with your accents and things you would never know that you grew up in England, actually. It's pretty cool. What got you interested in the metaphysical world?
Well, primarily I was raised as a Muslim, and I went to the mosque, read the Quran, did the Arabic prayers, but at the same time I also went to Church of England schools, where I had a formal education, Christian education, Bible study, or hymns, carols. And, for me, I didn't see any difference in the two ideologies. I just thought they were different paths of one divine source. And then at the age of 16, I, I met my own spiritual master, an Englishman by the name of Dr. George Keel, who I decided to follow. And what he probably following since then, his teachings through his own organization, through society. So, since the age of 16, I've been in this.
Yeah, it help us understand I mean, I know I mentioned metaphysical, but what encompasses metaphysical world?
It goes beyond physical. It goes into the realms of, high, of mysticism, spirituality, invisible planes, life on other planets, different dimensions, healing. All these can be, be encompassed under the word metaphysical or spiritual. It's a higher form of spirituality. It goes beyond the dogma and the teachings of, organized religion. So I kind of bypass a lot of the dogma, and then went into the search of truth. And I found somebody who I believe was not only a great yoga master, but somebody who had information, revelations, which I found absolutely fascinating. And one thing that he always taught, he said, if you want to, find truth, he says, always speak the truth. And so it made him very unpopular in the 50s and 60s in some of his teachings, but he stuck to them. And a lot of these revelations, early revelations, are now being accepted now by mainstream ideas. So I think that I'm not here to convert anybody in regards to my own ideologies, but I ask your listeners to keep an open mind, use their intuition, and do their own research the way I did this. Find, my own destiny and my own path, which everybody is entitled to do.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that when you talk about New Age, do you think that the spirituality and New Age kind of combine itself together into one based upon the higher learning aspect of it?
Well, New Age concepts are really old age concepts. They've just been updated by modern teachers. Um, the basic spiritual laws are as old as time itself, and we've kind of regressed tremendously. At one time, we were highly evolved spiritual beings, and we've regressed. We're on a planet right now where we have endless wars, we have hatred between races, religions, we have pollution, we have a political system that's just archaic, not only in this country, but every other country. Um, we have warmongers and generals that are trying to create war, and, it can go on and on. And as far as the new age is concerned, there's certain factors that are creating that have already started. I mean, the Mayan calendar finished in 2012. It didn't actually finish. Wasn't the end of mankind, but it was the beginning of a new renaissance. And so right now, if you study astrology, we're now in what's called the Aquarian age, from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. And the Aquarian age is pushing mankind to cooperate, to heal each other, to help each other. And that's the astrological course that's occurring right now. And either either mankind controls of that, or he will regress back worse to the situations that are right now. And on another aspect of this new age is that we know that the Mother Earth is a beautiful, living, honorary goddess, and she also is raising her vibrations. So a lot of this climate change is a result of her raising her vibrations. And so it's not a case of, well, what do we have to do anything? It's a case of we must now either raise our vibrations and stay on this planet, or we will be in a position where we won't be able to withstand these high vibrations in centuries to come, and we will not be allowed to stay on this planet. It's got to that critical mass, that critical point.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that especially in the last couple of years, it really has accelerated to such a point that you have to take notice to what's going on, especially on Earth and the planet and the climate change and unfortunately, the deniers of climate change and what it's doing to the planet. I think that I agree with you in being an environmentalist and humanitarian at the same time, and understanding that, Earth, this is our home, and we're destroying it in such a manner that it's going to become uninhabitable soon if we don't stop doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's not, the pollution is one aspect of it, which is our own bad karma, but um regards to the ice cap melting and the ionosphere depleting, that is also part of Mother Earth changing our vibrations, which is doing slowly every year. So it's going to get to the point we've been told that there's going to be temperate climate around the world. There won't be the 4 seasons, and there will be a very temperate climate in the centuries to come. So, well, essentially a good move on behalf of the mother. So, um, but there will be flooding to certain countries. That was prophesized in the 50s and 60s by beings that contacted my master. And this talk about the Renaissance and New Reset again, was prophesied years ago, and it started, and we just can't be like hostages with our heads in the sand. We have to wake up, and not only we, but governments and the media have to wake up to the reality of this situation.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. It's it's a situation that and obviously I understand it's also not just it's not just the pollution and the environmental impacts, but it's also humanity itself. I think that society has changed in such a manner that compassion and humanity have started to disappear, and the understanding between individuals and knowing that we are all human beings and we're all living here together has eroded to such a point that it's actually sad, and that's a detrimental as well, because you have hatred and you have racism and you have these stigmas that are showing up and being played out both verbally and physically, that compassion and humanity have started to kind of disappear in empathy.
Yeah, it seems to be a me world. But at the same time, there's thousands of people who are also behind the scenes doing a lot of work, doing a lot of spiritual work, doing a lot of humanitarian work. And the media doesn't focus on that. They focus on the doom and boom. So there are a lot of good things that are happening. We don't hear about that because these are the unsung heroes. We always hear about all the bad things because I think it's especially designed to hypnotize and mold us to the point where we stay in fear. So we need to break away from this fear. I wake up in fear, anxiety, depression many times because I can feel it in the air. It seems to be, you know, uh, seems to be a normal occurrence around the planet. But at the same time, we're also being offered spiritual opportunities to send out a lot of tremendous healing power by higher beings who are watching over us. So, they say, darkness shines the smallest light. And so it just needs a minority to raise up the majority. And so that's what we can do. That's what your listeners can do. Well, in these days of trial and tribulation, there is a solution and a wonderful solution, and the only solution, which is the spiritual solution.
I agree with that. And you're a healer. I think that probably helps a little bit because you have an empathetic perception on life in whole because you're a healer. When did you realize that you were a healer?
Well, Dr. King wrote a book back in 1975 called YouTube and Heal, and based on his 40 years of research in healing. And he said pretty much that every man, woman, and child on this planet is a natural healer. These are natural attributes, which again, some people say it's a gift from God or it's, something special. He dispelled all those ideologies. And so we're spiritual beings in physical bodies, and it's not the other way around. And part of our heritage is to channel this pranic, this spiritual energy for fellow we need love and send it out. It's part of our, normal natural process, which we have actually ignored and don't know how to do. I belong to a group. We meet up pretty much every day and we send out spiritual power. Uh, People want to join us. Free. It's called 12blessings.org, the 12 being numerical. And they can find out for themselves. All you have to do is raise your hands in front of a mirror, send out white light, and you can feel it coming back. And this is a very tangible energy, Michael. It's not something that's airy-fairy. And it just, operates on a higher octave of existence. But it's just as physical as electricity. It's just on a different level. And that's the whole aspect of healing is to drawing the energy and channeling it out. It's very simple, and because it's simple, it probably goes over people's heads.
Sometimes simplicity scares people. Yeah, it's interesting when people think if it's too simple that it's not real, but some things in life can be simple.
People are into complications. Mankind loves complications. They think if anything is complicated, it must be intriguing. But simple spiritual truths are being just going over their heads and they ignore. Our minds just jump around looking for the next stimulation, the next fix. And, what we need to do is center ourselves calm ourselves down, breathe, and center ourselves and find out who we are. Go within and come out and share these experiences with the world.
Yeah, very cool. I think I will make sure that that connection is in the show notes so that people who are looking for that connection can reach out and join that. I appreciate that. I know that a large portion of myself and others refer to Mother Nature, and you refer to the Earth as a she. I heard you say that earlier. So, do you feel that Mother Nature and planet Earth are combined as a she?
She's, she's a female entity, and, and you know, again, a lot of the indigenous tribes around the world have known for centuries that this planet is a living goddess. And, we as a human race have all really, done appalling things. We raped her of the resources without giving anything back. And so it's time that people woke up that this is not just a piece of rock that we live on. It's a beautiful classroom. This planet has offered us sanctuary, the last 18 million years. And it's not a place of doom and depression and suffering. But a beautiful, spacecraft that's going around the solar system, that's orbiting around the galaxy. Uh, that, that we just take for granted. And so, it's up to us now to start repaying back all the things that we've taken from her, and protecting her and helping her at this time. But at the same time, she's been ordered to raise her spiritual vibrations, because it's got to the point where she was operating under a lot of limitation just by having mankind on her back. And now all that is changing. So she also will rise in the center sun, in the heavens, and take care of all the place in the solar system.
Now, you believe that women will eventually rule the world? Talking about she and her.
Yeah, I think because she's a female in polarity, as her vibrations will be increasing, they will empower women will be again be suppressed for centuries by men, and will empower them to the point where I believe that women will be the custodians of this planet. Will be in a lot of high, I wouldn't say political positions, but highly positions of leadership. And I think they'll probably do a much better job than the bloody history that the male species has done over the centuries.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually agree with you in that regard. Let's talk about reincarnation. What are your thoughts?
Well, one thing that the cosmic beings that contacting my spiritual master have been pushing, and since they did contact him, was this truth about reincarnation. And it's a truth, again, that has been ignored. It's very interesting, Michael, that recently some Christian scholars have come forward based on their own research, have said that the Christian church actually suppressed the teachings of reincarnation a few centuries ago. It was actually taught in the Christian church. And it's
That's interesting. Yeah, I grew up Catholic. I mean, we can continue with that. I'm interested in what you have to say. I grew up Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic. I'm more spiritual than I am I don't, I'll probably get in trouble by a few people, but I don't believe in organized religion. I think that I look at life from a spiritual perspective in the universe, in mind, body, soul, and a connection through that perspective. I also believe in reincarnation. I think that we continue to come back and learn and to move forward in life. And I remember growing up, getting my early education from the Catholic, that was a big no-no. It was taboo. You didn't talk about that. It just didn't. What didn't exist.
Yeah, and truth is whether we like it or not. So it doesn't matter if anybody believes it or disbelieves it. The fact is that reincarnation is a spiritual truth, and not only the Eastern philosophies, but it's been known for centuries, and it also answers the so-called inequalities of this planet. Why is somebody born rich, or why is somebody born poor? Why is a 3-year-old born with cancer and a 4-year-old is an expert piano player? I mean, and it people would think twice once reincarnation is reintroduced to the whole planet about going to war. Knowing that the person they're going to murder could be somebody that could have been their father or mother or sister or brother in their last life. We're all connected metaphysically. We're one race. We all came from the one creating divine source. And this lie has been perpetrated that we're different races, different religions. We're not. We're all one. We were born. We reincarnate in different situations, different cultures, different races, even different sexes, in order to learn experiences. And Dr. King says there's only one reason we're here on this planet. There's not two. Only one reason, and that's to raise our consciousness to high levels of high states of meditation, like cosmic consciousness, nirvana, to the point where we can reach a stage of ascension and leave this planet or break the reincarnation cycle and move on to higher dimensions, higher planets. And that's the only reason we're here, is to rise and evolve. We're not here for all this other uh, madness and turmoil, but for a minority of people who are in power have enticed the masses. And now this cycle, because of the vibrations that we're raising, is being broken. And that power is being slowly, uh, you know, uh, being transmuted, and people are beginning to think for themselves and open themselves up to these truths. Reincarnation should be taught in the schools. The law of karma should be taught in schools. The action reaction is ups and equal. What you do, you get back. I mean, those basic aspects of reincarnation, the law of karma, should be taught way before math, science, or any of these other subjects. Don't you agree, Will? No?
Oh, 100%. I agree with that. I think that it would help us as an individual, us as a human being, have a better understanding of those around us and where they're at in life and the struggles, as well as the successes that you are presented with. It would help us to open our minds, our hearts, and our souls to something bigger and better, basically, out there, so that we can learn and move forward.
Yeah, and reincarnation, just totally takes away nationalism. People are into nationalism. I'm proud to this color. I'm proud from this country. It throws away all that, and in the centuries to come, there will be no races or religions. There will be just one, the open land and sea, and one race, the human race, and that's what our destiny is. And so, it's laughable to say that you're proud of this country or that country. I mean, it's okay to be proud, but not to the point that, well, we're chosen above others, or you are an inferior race or inferior religion. That's all again a big lie. And if people, it's been said that the greatest sin on this planet is ignorance, and the greatest thing that we can give another is wisdom. And so, by wisdom and opening ourselves up to aspects of teachings which have been hidden from us, we will gain a better understanding of not only ourselves but other races, other cultures, and all this lie will be transmuted into love and service for everybody, regardless of race, color, people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that would be something that I think we all should strive for in regard to coming together as the human race, human beings. speaking of human beings and doing it from that perspective, I know that this universe is huge, and I know that we're not alone in it. What are your thoughts on that? I know that you had a UFO experience at one time.
I did when I was 18. Well, I had a very intimate connection with the UFO out in the wilderness. And again, this is another aspect of universal truth which has been hidden by the governments of life on other planets, UFOs, plant sources. And, my own yogi master was actually contacted in the 50s and 60s by the beings. And it's very interesting now. In the early days, you were looked at as a crackpot or a weirdo if you believed in UFOs. And now again, the tide has changed. I mean, even based on that recent report in the Pentagon, they can't answer at sightings which defy or or any terrestrial craft. And so, yeah, it's an insult to our intelligence now to say, for the government to say that there is no life on other planets or there are no UFOs. And, my master reached such a state of high evolution that he could go into these deeper states and was contacted by these beings. And one proof that I may throw out to your listeners that he was a genuine contactee was that in the 50s, they would give him reports of flying saucer activities 2 or 3 weeks before they actually occurred, in Australia, New Zealand, America, and other places, Europe. And 2 or 3 weeks later, those exact sightings were confirmed by people in the military. So that to me was a definite evidence that he was indeed in contact with these extraterrestrials. And again, science is catching up while quantum physics now, and based on their calculations, talk about parallel universes, different dimensions. And, I agree with science that in the solar system, it would be hard to find life, humanoid life on, say, Mars or Venus, Jupiter, Saturn. But Dr. King, in a book in the 1950s called You're Responsible, actually projected as a yogi adept to the higher dimensions of this planet and conversed with high civilizations on Mars and Venus that lived on these higher dimensions, which again, on Earth, we're not even aware of these high dimensions here because because unless we're psychic or we can project to these realms, we generally don't know about them until we pass over. And then it's the same with other planets. These beings not only are scientifically advanced millions of years ahead of us, but also spiritually. And they're also in our skies at this time offering us spiritual energy through their instrumentations that are helping to raise the vibrations of mankind. So they're friendly, they're spiritual, we've got nothing to worry about. And it's a very hopeful thing that there are beings that are greater than us, that are helping us. To me, it's a tremendous amount of hope.
Do you think that there these higher beings and these other terrestrial beings that have shown up here? Do you think that they're kind of watching over us and making sure that we don't step over a particular line, or kind of keep us from going over the edge in regard to certain aspects?
They've been watching us for the last 18 million years since we've been on planet Earth, and they're not going to go away. It's very interesting that they appeared tremendously in the skies in the 50s and 60s when we started exploding again, go back into the atomic race, exploding hydrogen and atomic bombs. And it's very interesting that at that time, scientists even now are baffled that we did not destroy the Earth or mankind because of the radioactive fallout. I think they used their instrumentations to absorb a lot of this radioactivity and actually save the planet and the whole of humanity.
Yeah, you got to think about all the times that they blew up and did testings with nuclear bombs and nuclear missiles and everything else that they've exploded. That undoubtedly there's going to be residue. There's going to be something floats around, there's going to be at least some after effects, and you really don't see it come about. So I think that that's a positive thing. Do you think that there's and I only bring this up because my wife and I follow this kind of pretty in depth in regard to understanding that there's other beings out there, and that they can be positive, but they also can have some that are on the negative side. Do you agree with that?
Well, there was a transmission the Dr. King got from the cosmic beings, and they said, well, if we were not friendly, you would not exist. So, I mean, they said within 10 to 15 minutes, they could completely take over the planet. So that to me is proof. I think, of course, there's extraterrestrial beings there are not. Or, of course, if you look at the whole millions of worlds, of galaxies, I'm sure there are very evil or extraterrestrial beings, but we're actually protected by the beings or from the higher space in the solar system, from any outside interference from or extraterrestrials that are later. But the ones that are observing us are actually very, very spiritual, are very friendly. And that's the feeling I got when I was out in the wilderness and I had this uh, contact with a UFO that sent found energy to me. I got this feeling that the people who control this craft are not only scientific and advanced, but very, very, very caring spiritual beings. And they actually have craft around the planet right now. We've been told that they have exact information on every man, woman, child, plant, rock, fish, like they have the vibrational sequence of everybody on this planet. And with their spacecraft, all we have to do is tune in telepathically to them, and they will beam down our spiritual energy to us, or just mentally requesting it, that we can, which will enhance our spiritual activity. And that's one of the main reasons of their existence right now, is to help mankind raise their vibrations for the new age and beam down with instrumentation beyond our imagination. And all we have to do is open ourselves up to these energies and send them out to the world. They do all the work. All we have to do is just be channels. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's really that's intriguing. Actually, I think that I believe in the telepathic communication with them. My wife and I have participated in a couple of experiments in regard to that, and have watched some shows that had got us interested in it from that perspective as well. So from that, I think that's a profound opportunity to kind of reach out and make connection and raise your spirituality. Do you think that these higher beings walk among us?
I think I believe they do. Um, I believe that also, based on the information they send us, that the religious teachers of this world were not from this planet, but from the higher dimensions. I'm talking about people like the Master Jesus, the Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna, and other masters. That's in reality, I would say. I believe they were interplanetary beings. It's interesting, when the Lord Buddha was born, there was 5 disc-shaped objects seen above the temple.
Really?
When he died, there were 5 disc-shaped objects above where he died. And people are questioning now the star of Bethlehem. Was it really a star that hovered over the state?
Yeah, I've heard that actually.
Yeah, so so they have walked among us, and look how we've treated them. They've given us teachings. These are the true political leaders of this planet. And what the cosmic being is saying is, we're not bringing anything new. You just follow the teachings of Master Jesus, Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna. They're all the same. They were just given in different times and different cultures. But the spiritual laws are all the same. What part of thou shalt not kill don't we understand?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an interesting perspective when you start studying religions. When I got my master's degree, part of my research was done with theology and different religions and different philosophies. Everything from Zen to Buddhism, um, Catholic, not Nazarene. I mean, everything. Baptist, no matter what religion that you're from. Obviously, they're all. Some of them have different Bibles, different teachings, different books, but theoretically, everything across the board has the same principles and foundations to follow.
Yeah, and that's the thing that people are saying. They follow religion, but at the same time, they go to war and murder. It's
Yeah.
like
But
bombs, and then we have thoughts are real. The energy that we send out, hatred, and all this greed, jealousy. These are all real energy vibrations that we send out. And again, we need to control our thoughts and transmute that into healing, into love. And bombs and wars have not solved. Have never solved anything. Politics has never solved anything. Uh, Again, what the cosmic beings are saying is we just need to follow teachings of people who already gone by and how they explain the spiritual laws, of what we need to do. And we regress and created our own little laws based on our own ideology, and look, chaos is powerful.
it blows me away the number of individuals and societies and life that has been killed in the name of religion.
Yeah.
That from any religion, Catholic, Christian, Protestant, Muslim, you name it, any religion, 99% of the religions out there have killed in the name of quote unquote religion.
Right.
The Christian wars, the Knights Templar, it's amazing. It's kind of crazy.
Managing inquisition. Yeah, and these are, I believe also there's an invisible war behind the scenes, between the forces of darkness and the forces of light, and the forces of darkness, demonic forces who are in lower realms of existence, are trying to trying to hold on to power, trying to create this division, because you create division, you create fear, and you can control the masses. And so again, the higher beings are giving us the opportunity to break this cycle and rise and transmute this mess that's been caused by a minority of people who kept power over the majority of mankind. And that's also breaking as well.
From a spiritual perspective, how do you feel about heaven and hell?
Um, Dr. King said that there was he projected to a lot of these realms. He said there's 4 realms below us called the lower astral realm, and the 6 levels above us to the higher ones. He called the lower astral realms the hells, and then of course level 4, 5, and 6 are I would guess would be considered heaven. So when we die, we go to the realms our own vibrational sequence is created. So by our own karma, our own inaction or overaction, when we die, we go to these realms. And so, and then we stay to these realms till we reincarnate back, and the cycle goes. But it doesn't even matter if you end up in a lower astral realm. That, there's always an opportunity to come back. It's not like religion say once you're in hell, you're going to be suffered for eternity. No, cosmic masters even send energies to these lower realms. If anybody is trying to be a humanitarian and trying to help. So yeah, they do exist. I believe there are demonic forces in these lower realms that are trying to control all the masses through suffering. That they feed on the vibrations of suffering mankind. And then there's higher beings on the higher realms, the spiritual hierarchy of Earth. Um, that are trying to stop this. We're actually in very dangerous times right now. We could easily go back to a nuclear holocaust. And so we have to, uh, you know, turn the tide for humanity as opposed to against humanity. And again, the same message, send out the spiritual power, send out this healing. Dr. King in the 70s, they had this oil embargo, and at that time, he talked about a spiritual energy crisis, an energy crisis. And he said the greatest energy crisis on this planet is the spiritual energy crisis, that if you fix that, it would automatically solve problems between countries and even in the personal life. So again, it refers back to the natural spiritual worlds.
What can we do as human beings to bring more people into tranquility and peace on the earth?
We have to look within. It's just as important to look within as it is to go out in the world. We need to focus on going within, finding our concept of our higher, or our own higher power, which is within us. We're all sparks of that higher power, and I think we owe it to the next generation as spiritual adults. We need to. I don't want to see my nieces and nephews living in a world that's polluted or under the threat of war and all this stuff that's going on. So I think it's our duty. I think we'd be commanded right now to raise our vibrations, send out this energy. And the good thing is, again, coming back to the law of karma, if we send out healing energy, we get exactly the same healing energy back. So it's a double winner. So the more we send out this power, the more energy we get back. So people just seem to ignore the fact that, if you murder somebody, it's pretty obvious that either in this life or the next life, you too will suffer the same consequence. And it's the same as if you heal somebody, you will to a degree raise the whole vibration of mankind in one.
And that's a good thing, I think, to take steps in order to accomplish that. Is that kind of your motivation for the book?
Pretty much was the main motivation of the book. Is again to give your listeners a message of hope that the things that are occurring right now may even get worse. But nobody on this planet can stop this new age that's coming. Nothing in the solar system can stop this evolutionary cycle that's occurring right now, or from Mother Earth. And so it's up to us. We've been told that that the people who ignore these signs and don't raise their vibrations will eventually, through death, be taken to another planet and start the reincarnation cycle there. There's a planet that lots of you talk about called Planet X, which is on the other side of the solar system. Scientists know that it's there based on their calculations. And so it's reached that point that if the people who refuse to raise or refuse to help will have to start the reincarnation cycle on another planet. So
that's really interesting. Do you think, from that perspective, it just raises so many more questions. You're gonna have to come back on the show again, because this raises so many questions that can go on to a whole different aspect of learning and education and knowledge and insight. Are we, as a universe, in talking about other planets and how some are watching over us, does that make us all interconnected?
wonderful question, because we're not just the human race. We're part of we came from the cosmos. We are part of the cosmos. Cosmic beings have said that we're not above you. We're part of you. They refer to us as one family. So the solar system is one family. So anything that happens on Earth affects them, and then anything that we do, anything that they do affects us. So yeah, we're all part of the universe, the cosmos. We're not separate at all whatsoever.
Why do you think that when we do have sightings of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, or I think they've changed the name of that to phenomena, um, w- I guess a broader question would be why do you feel that they're not making their presence known any more than what they are?
I think they will in the time to come, but it's being prophesized that there is going to be a great Messiah, a great spiritual leader that's going to come to Earth in the near future that will lead mankind to this new age. And Dr. King received a transmission that this being will be said that he will stand tall among men with a shining countenance. And he said that he will actually open land in a spacecraft and approach the Earth leaders, and they will ask his credentials and their views. And this is really terrifying but amazing to think about. But they said that this particular spiritual master or leader that's going to come will have more greater power than the combined military might of all the armies. That's the kind of power that he invent. Of course, he's not going to kill anyone, but he will demonstrate his power, in many ways. And so, he will lead mankind. And again, those who don't heed his word will be removed from upon him. Another thing is, in another transmission, um, the cosmic being said, well, we want a sign from us. How about you as a race, give us a sign? I mean, if we were to approach you, would you open to us with peace and love, or with an atomic weapon pointed at them? So, we also have to change in order to, for them to eventually come uh, to us. But at this point, just karmically, I think they can only, uh, you know, go through messages, sending healing, sending spiritual energy to us. I don't think they will land en masse in the near future, but just observe us from a distance.
How do you think
But
that?
again,
I'm sorry.
I think they're just as close to us as anything. All we have to do is just think about that, and we won't get a message. May not even get a sighting, but we will get spiritual energy sent to us.
Percentage. How does that play into? And this is not a theological discussion, and by no means trying to prove or disprove anything. How does that? How do you think that plays into the aspect of God and the Antichrist, for example? Because according to that theory, there's going to be an Antichrist that shows up to appear to be the leader of everything. I'm the big guy, and I'm here to take you into the light, the good way, and really is deceptive. How do you think that plays together?
My own personal opinion is I think the Antichrist is already here. Uh, just
I could agree with that.
I don't think it's a being as such. I think it could be an organization or like magicians behind the scenes that control the masses, that control the financial system, that create these wars. So I think the Antichrist is here, has been here for centuries. And so again, it comes back to, well, it's God. And people, scientists talk about the Big Bang or the universe exploded. And the yogis talk about, the great outbreathing of God, where the absolute or God evolved itself into matter and scattered, billions and billions of aspects of itself. And now, we have the great inbreathing or evolution. And so we're going back to the source. And so we're all not only in Earth, for every other planet, galaxy, universe, we're all sparks of that one creative source. And we're just going back to it. And so, there's millions of ways of going back to this one source. But that pretty much explains the whole reason why we're here now at this particular point.
That's very interesting, actually intriguing. from that perspective, how important is it for us to understand that we as a human being have a choice in this world to save it, whether it be spiritually or environmentally?
Well, millions of years we were given out free will, and look, what did we do out with that free will? Of course, they talk about some civilizations that destroyed, Lemuria and Atlantis, so we can even go back to where we came from. We're not actually from Earth, but from another planet in the solar system that used to be between the orbiting between Jupiter and Mars by the name of Maldek we destroyed. So, all these we destroyed with atomic weapons. And so for the fourth time again, we've reached a stage where we could destroy civilization. And so it's a case of now, using our free will in order is to suppress our free will in order to gain freedom and to not suppress, but transmute our free will and not do the things that we did that created negative karma through aggressors, but use our free will to raise ourselves and achieve the freedom of the stars that we had over millions of years. So it's reached that point. But freedom can only be achieved by the control of free will and not the misuse, like murder or pollution, all these are terrible, dumb, vulnerable.
Yeah, I think that individuals, we as human beings, we as a soul, need to look deeper inside ourselves in order to look at the possibilities of what's out there that we can contribute in a positive way, not contribute in a negative way. From all perspectives, actually.
Absolutely.
What inspires you?
What inspires me is as a sensitive being, like many sensitive beings, what motivates me is, I'm not happy with the conditions of this world. I'm not happy with what I see. And so, and that motivates me to keep sending out the light, just keep sending out the, to the point where eventually there will be a spiritual unification of this planet. And so, it's the motivating source of all sentient beings, of all the great teachers, of all the great leaders that have come before us, that they will never satisfy with the status quo. And if we can be satisfied with the status quo, there's something wrong with us. Not that we have to go into depression and remorse and go into a negative state of mind, but know that we have the greater beings in us that are pushing us, that are helping us, that we don't have to rely on anything terrestrial, or that there is a power in the solar system greater than anything on this planet, that's spiritual and benign. And it inspires me, it motivates me that I have the backing of these wonderful masters.
That's a good thing to inspire you. I think that should make you feel. That should make you feel really good from the inside out. I mean, it's kind of yeah. I like that. I really do. Let's talk about your book just a little bit. What's the name of it?
Called The Struggle for World Sanity. And, I wrote it primarily, to explain, there was some experiences I never talked about in my younger days, and I would relate that so that people could relate, especially context worlds that people can relate to. I go into my own experiences with my Yogi Master, and then the teachings of the Ethereal Society, his organization, and what to expect in the centuries to come, and the message of hope for mankind in these very troubled days.
And this is the cover of the book right here, and where we can find it, right? Where can we find it? And more about you, actually.
Yeah, you can find The Struggle for World Sanity on Amazon, or as a Kindle, paperback, and audiobook, which I narrated. And if you want to learn more about or contact me or learn more about me, you can go to my website, wajid.com.
And I'll have all that stuff in the show notes as well, so it's easy for people to find both the book and your website. I've explored both of them, and from what I've read in the book so far, it's an amazing journey into your life and through insight, and gives you kind of an education and an opportunity to open your own eyes and what you can do to contribute back to the world, which is, it's amazing. This is one more thing before you go. So before we leave, is there any wisdom or words of advice that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, again, just want to let the listeners know that there is hope, and I think we need to leave a legacy. Everybody, needs to leave a legacy when they die. What did I do? And and I think the greatest legacy that we can leave for the younger generations is that we did something to help the planet, to help the population, to help the world. And the greatest way that we can do it these days is to send this energy of love on a regular basis out to the world and help those. That's the greatest thing we can do. And also, it will help us evolve ourselves, but we can also receive high mystical experiences of enlightenment and joy and peace. Nothing wrong with happiness anymore. Nothing wrong with being happy at all.
I agree with the profound words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing those. Wajid, thank you for the last hour. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your journey, your experience, your wisdom, and the opportunity for us all to contribute back in a very positive way. Thank you for joining me on One More Thing Before You Go.
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for joining the conversation on One More Thing Before You Go. Don't forget, we're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all of your favorite listening platforms. Please support us and subscribe. It's free. Watch for our unique apps that were sponsored by Superpass. They're on iOS and on Google Play Store. They're available now. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go, a unique conversation about life. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. That's beforeyougopodcast.com. Tell your story, share your expertise, contribute to the blog, and subscribe to the newsletter. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.
And one more thing before you go. Have a nice day, have a nice week, and thanks for listening.
One More Thing Before You Go, a unique conversation about life podcast, is a creation of One More Thing Productions, established 2010, all rights reserved.